Welcome to the deep dive. You know, today we're really taking a close look at India's economic picture,
hmm
and more specifically, what are the strategies folks are talking about to really propel the country to that next level of growth.
Yeah.
And to do that, we're looking at this fascinating interview with Sanjiv Puri,
Oh, yeah.
the president of the Confederation of Indian Industry, or CII.
Right?
It's published just recently in the Indian Express on January 13th, 2025. So very, very current.
Very current.
And what's interesting is that he also leads ITC Ltd.
Right.
So he's got that the perspective from both those big industry associations, but also major company.
Right.
So his insights are very, very sharp.
And I think what's really striking is that he's remarkably optimistic
Yeah.
about India's economic prospects,
Yeah.
especially when you consider that we're in this time of, global economic stress.
Yeah, he's projecting a growth of 6.4% for the fiscal year 2025,
hmm
which is not a bad number at all, especially when you look at other countries.
Yeah. No, that's doing pretty well.
Yeah. But before we dive into all those strategies,
Yeah.
he's talking about, to get to that next level,
Yeah.
we have to understand kind of where things are at right now.
Right. The current state of play.
Yeah, you've been following the Indian economy very, very closely. So can you give us a little bit of context?
Of course. So, yeah, 6.4% GDP growth. That's considered quite decent, with all the global challenges that we're
Yeah.
seeing. And Puri actually breaks it down even further.
Yeah.
He predicts 6% growth in the first half of the fiscal year, and then it'll accelerate to 6.7% in the second half.
Oh, wow.
But here's the thing. This growth is happening despite some major headwinds.
Yeah, he mentions, those depressed merchandise exports.
Yeah.
Food inflation is really hitting consumers' wallets.
Right.
And then you got the ever-present issue of Chinese dumping, which is,
Yeah.
undercutting domestic businesses.
Undercutting, yeah.
And I'm sure many of our listeners can relate to, at least one of those pressures, regardless of, their field.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it so significant is that despite these obstacles,
Right.
the growth persists, which really speaks to the resilience of the Indian economy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Puri isn't just content with this 6.7%.
Right.
He believes that India can aim higher, shoot for that 7.5% or even 8% growth.
Wow.
And his recommendations for achieving this next level growth are fascinating.
Yeah, he gets really specific about targeting certain sectors that he sees as potential game changers, particularly, labor-intensive ones like footwear and apparel and tourism and furniture.
These sectors are interesting for a few reasons. First, they have the potential to generate a significant number of jobs,
Right.
especially for those who might not have, specialized skills or higher education.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Increased job creation leads to more disposable income, which in turn fuels consumer spending and overall economic growth.
It's a virtuous cycle.
Exactly.
And, these sectors also have the potential to boost India's export revenues, further strengthening the economy.
Exactly. So these targeted interventions in specific sectors are crucial.
Mm-hmm.
But Turi doesn't stop there.
Right.
He's also a huge proponent of empowering micro, small, and medium enterprises, or MSMEs,
Yeah.
which make up a vast network of businesses across the country.
He calls them the backbone of the Indian economy.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. I mean,
Yeah.
they provide a huge employment base and contribute significantly to economic activity.
Yeah.
But, he recognizes that they need the right support to really thrive.
Right. And one of his key recommendations here is to strengthen and continue the Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme.
Oh, the ECLGS.
Yeah, or ECLGS. You might remember the scheme from the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
It was a lifeline for countless MSMEs,
Yeah.
providing those government-backed loans that help them weather the storm.
But it's not just about keeping businesses afloat during tough times, though.
Yeah.
The ECLGS can also encourage investment and growth by
Yeah.
reducing the risk for lenders and making it easier for MSMEs to access that capital they need to expand.
Precisely, but access to capital is only part of the story.
Right.
Puri also emphasizes the need to streamline the digital landscape for MSMEs.
Yeah.
Right now, you have a whole array of different platforms they need to navigate.
Right.
You've got Udyam for registration, TreadES for bill discounting, GEM for government procurement, and the Open Network for Digital Commerce, or ONDC.
It's a lot to juggle.
It is.
Especially for those smaller businesses, with limited resources.
Right.
So what does he want to do there?
Well, he envisions a single integrated platform
Okay.
where MSMEs can manage all their regulatory compliance access financing options, participate in government tenders, and connect with buyers.
So one-stop shop.
Yeah. Imagine the impact this could have on ease of doing business.
Oh, absolutely.
It's about removing those barriers and empowering MSMEs to reach their full potential.
And then he takes it a step further, right?
Yeah.
He's connecting these MSMEs to the global stage.
Yeah.
He envisions integrating more of them into global value chains,
Right.
essentially plugging them into, the worldwide network of production and supply.
Imagine a small Indian business specializing in, say, hand-woven textiles suddenly becoming part of the supply chain for a major international fashion brand.
Oh, wow.
That opens up a world of possibilities. Increased market access exposure to new technologies and best practices, and the potential to become a key player in global manufacturing.
But becoming part of these global chains, also means navigating international trade dynamics.
Right.
And Puri astutely points out that India needs to be careful about its duty structures. If import duties are set too high, it can make Indian businesses less competitive on that global stage.
Yeah, they don't want to be priced out.
Right. And he even proposes this three-tier system with moderate rates for, different types of goods.
Okay.
To strike that balance between protecting domestic industries and encouraging them to be globally competitive.
It's a delicate balancing act,
Yeah.
but one that's absolutely essential for sustained economic growth.
Now, all this talk about global value chains and exports
Right.
might make you wonder, how are the bigger players in the Indian economy doing?
Yeah. Are they keeping up?
Yeah. Have large corporations, stepped up their investment game?
Especially after those corporate tax cuts a while back.
Right. It's a question a lot of people are asking. And Puri addresses it head on.
Good.
He doesn't agree with the criticism that corporate investment hasn't been robust enough.
Interesting.
He presents a pretty compelling case, arguing that investment has actually been quite healthy, considering all the disruptions we've seen in recent years.
Like what?
The pandemic, global turmoil, you name it.
Right.
And he cites some interesting data points to support his claim.
Okay.
He mentions that private capital expenditure, or CapEx, as a percentage of GDP, was actually higher in 2022-23 than it was before the pandemic.
That's significant.
Yeah, because it shows that businesses are willing to invest.
Right.
Despite those uncertainties. He also points to data from the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, or CMIE,
Okay.
which shows a substantial jump in CapEx announcements
Oh, wow.
in the second quarter of the fiscal year.
Okay.
And he highlights the strong order books
Right.
for capital goods industries as a positive indicator of future investment.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even the CII's own survey reveals that a significant percentage of its member companies have positive investment intentions for the coming year.
That's good news.
So while some might point to a lack of investment, Puri's actually quite optimistic about the trends he's seeing.
That's interesting.
He does, however, acknowledge some potential roadblocks.
Like what?
He brings up the issue of Chinese dumping again, which we've already discussed. And he also highlights slower consumption growth as a potential obstacle.
Right, because if demand is sluggish,
Yeah.
businesses might be hesitant to invest in expanding capacity.
Exactly. They're going to be cautious.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right. Investment decisions are always driven by this complex interplay of factors.
They are.
And speaking of investment, Puri makes an interesting point about the relationship between public and private CapEx.
Okay.
He believes that increased public investment can actually crow in private investment.
That sounds a little counterintuitive.
Yeah. Can you explain what he means by that?
Sure. So when the government invests heavily in infrastructure projects, for example, it creates this ripple effect throughout the economy.
Okay.
Those projects create demand for materials, equipment, and services, which in turn encourages private businesses to invest in expanding their operations to meet that demand.
Okay. I'm starting to see the logic there.
It's all interconnected.
It is. It is. Yeah. But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about a concern that's been making headlines lately.
Okay.
Wage growth.
Or the lack thereof.
Or rather, lack thereof, right?
What?
A recent study by FICCI and Quest suggested that wage growth has been pretty stagnant in recent years.
Interesting.
I'm curious, listener, has this been your experience as well?
Yeah.
Have you seen wages stagnate in your field?
It's a crucial question to consider.
It is.
And it's one that Puri addresses in the interview.
Yeah.
Now, he doesn't seem entirely convinced by the study's findings.
Okay.
He actually questions the data source
Mm.
and emphasizes that private sector companies are committed to annual salary reviews that take inflation into account.
Okay.
So he's saying that while the rate of increase might slow down during, difficult economic periods, wages generally don't decline.
Right.
Companies understand the importance of retaining talent, especially in a competitive market.
Yeah, you don't want to lose your good people.
Exactly. But Puri also makes a critical distinction. He believes that the focus shouldn't be solely on increasing the number of jobs.
Right.
It's about creating more good quality jobs.
Yeah, he's talking about jobs that offer a living wage,
Right.
opportunities for advancement,
Mm-hmm.
and a sense of security and fulfillment.
Right. It's not just about having a job. It's
Right.
about having a job that allows you to live a decent life and build a future.
Quality over quantity.
Exactly. Quality over quantity should be the mantra.
Okay, now, this brings us to a seemingly paradoxical trend in the Indian economy.
Okay.
The resurgence of agriculture as a source of employment.
Interesting.
We've seen recent data indicating an increase in agricultural employment, which seems to contradict the earlier trend of people moving away from agriculture towards other sectors.
Yeah. What do you think about this, listener?
Right? Is this a positive development or a cause for concern?
Well, it's certainly an interesting development and one that Puri addresses directly. He believes that agriculture will always be a vital sector in India, employing a significant portion of the workforce, somewhere around 45–46%.
That's a huge number.
Yeah.
It makes you realize just how important it is to support and empower, those working in agriculture.
Absolutely. And Puri stresses the need for continued agricultural reforms to boost farmer incomes. He points to some of the ongoing government schemes that focus on farmer-producer organizations, or FPOs,
Right.
as well as initiatives aimed at integrating technology into agricultural practices.
It's about making agriculture, more efficient, more profitable, and ultimately more sustainable
Right.
for those who depend on it.
Precisely. But while agriculture will always play a crucial role in India, it's also important to ensure a healthy economic transition where people have opportunities to move into diverse fields if they choose to.
Right.
We need to see growth not just in agriculture, but in other sectors as well.
Which brings us back to Puri's vision for creating, quality jobs across the economy.
Mm-hmm.
He outlines a few key strategies for achieving this,
Okay.
starting with those labor-intensive sectors and MSMEs we discussed earlier.
Right. Those are crucial pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah.
He also emphasizes the need to further integrate Indian businesses into global value chains, tapping into that vast potential of international markets.
And of course, leveraging India's thriving services sector.
Mm.
Think about the global capability centers, the IT industry, all those areas where India is already a global player.
Mm-hmm.
These are all sources of high-quality jobs that can drive economic growth.
And here's where Puri throws in a truly innovative idea.
Okay.
He talks about creating integrated rural hubs that offer a range of services, everything from healthcare and skilling to education and even career management.
Wow.
He envisions these hubs operating through public-private partnerships,
Okay.
leveraging the strengths of both sectors.
So you're living in a rural area,
Right?
and you've got access to these kinds of resources right on your doorstep.
Exactly.
You can get quality healthcare, develop in-demand skills,
Uh-huh.
even receive career guidance, all without having to migrate to a crowded city.
It's a powerful vision, and it's particularly relevant given India's demographic dividend and the increasing digital connectivity in rural areas.
It could be a game changer for rural communities.
It could.
But Puri also emphasizes the importance of investing in human capital, making sure that people have the skills and education they need to thrive in this evolving economy.
He's absolutely right. Skilling and human capital development are essential if India is to fully capitalize on these emerging opportunities. Now, throughout this discussion, we've touched on the impact of China on India's economic landscape.
It's a complex relationship, to say the least.
It is, and Puri doesn't shy away from this elephant in the room.
Good.
He acknowledges the need for industrial efficiency and recognizes that sometimes collaboration with China might be the best path to achieve that.
Okay.
But he also recognizes the strategic national concerns surrounding China's growing influence,
Right.
especially in areas like manufacturing and technology. It's a delicate balancing act.
So how does he propose navigating this conundrum?
He advocates for a selective approach, carefully considering the best course of action on a sector-by-sector basis. In some sectors, collaboration might be the most beneficial route, while in others, India might need to adopt alternative strategies.
It's about weighing those economic benefits
Yeah.
against the strategic considerations,
Right.
making informed decisions that serve India's long-term interests.
Exactly. It's a nuanced approach that reflects the complexities of the global landscape. Now, stepping back for a moment, I'm struck by Puri's overall optimism about India's economic future.
It is surprising, given all the global challenges we're facing. What do you think is driving his optimism?
Well, I think part of it stems from India's track record of resilience. The country has weathered many storms in the past: economic crises, political upheavals, natural disasters, and has always emerged stronger.
There's a certain tenacity,
Yeah,
a capacity for adaptation and innovation that seems to be embedded in India's DNA.
absolutely. And Puri sees this resilience as a key asset as India navigates these uncertain global waters. He also highlights the structural advantages that position India well for future growth.
You're talking about the demographic dividend,
Yeah.
that young and growing population that provides such a large and vibrant workforce.
Exactly. It's a huge advantage, especially when you compare it to other countries grappling with aging populations and shrinking workforces. India also has a rapidly growing middle class with increasing purchasing power, which fuels domestic demand and drives economic activity.
And we can't forget about India's booming technology sector, which is rapidly becoming a global hub for innovation and entrepreneurship.
Right, these are all factors that contribute to Puri's optimistic outlook. He sees India on the cusp of something truly special, a nation poised to become a global economic powerhouse.
It's an exciting vision and one that I think resonates with a lot of people. But it's not just about catching up with the developed world. It's about forging our own path, leveraging our unique strengths, and building an economy that's both dynamic and inclusive.
Absolutely. And a key part of that is creating an environment where businesses, both large and small, can thrive. Which brings us back to Puri's emphasis on integrated policymaking. He argues that trade, investment, infrastructure, and skilling, these can't be treated as separate silos.
They're all interconnected,
Right.
and policies in one area can have ripple effects on the others. It's about creating synergy, making sure that the different parts of the system are working together harmoniously to achieve common goals.
Exactly. Puri envisions a scenario where India's trade policies facilitate the smooth flow of goods and services. Its investment policies are attractive and transparent, its infrastructure is world-class, and its workforce is equipped with the skills needed for the jobs of the future.
That's a pretty compelling proposition for any investor, domestic or foreign.
It is.
It's about creating a level playing field, a predictable and supportive environment where businesses can flourish and contribute to economic growth.
And it's not just about economic growth for its own sake. It's about creating opportunities, improving lives, and building a more prosperous and equitable society.
It's a vision that's both ambitious and inspiring. But as we delve deeper into Puri's ideas, I can't help but wonder if this integrated approach to policymaking has implications beyond the realm of economics.
That's a fascinating thought. What do you mean?
Well, think about it. This idea of aligning different policy areas of working in synergy towards a shared goal. Isn't that relevant to so many of the challenges we face today?
You're right. Whether we're talking about addressing climate change, promoting sustainable development, or tackling social inequality, we need that integrated approach. We can't afford to have policies working at cross purposes, undermining each other's effectiveness.
It's about breaking down those silos, fostering collaboration across different sectors and disciplines, and recognizing that our actions have interconnected consequences.
It's about moving beyond narrow self-interest and embracing a more holistic, collaborative approach to problem solving.
And it's not just the responsibility of governments. It's something that businesses, civil society organizations, and individuals all need to embrace. We all have a role to play in creating a better future.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected, that our actions have consequences, and that we need to work together to build a world that's more just sustainable and prosperous for all.
And this brings us back to Puri's vision for India. He sees a nation poised to become a global leader, not just in economic terms, but in terms of its commitment to inclusive and sustainable development.
It's a vision that's both bold and pragmatic, recognizing both the opportunities and the challenges that lie ahead.
And as we wrap up this deep dive into India's economic outlook, I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question, listener. Remember how Puri emphasized the need for that integrated approach to policymaking, aligning trade, investment, infrastructure, and skilling?
It was a key theme throughout the interview.
Well, here's the question. What might this integrated approach look like in your own field or area of interest? What opportunities or challenges could it present?
Yeah, it really is a question worth pondering. How can we, break down those silos in our own spheres of influence and work together more effectively to achieve those common goals? It's about thinking beyond just, our immediate areas of expertise and seeing the interconnectedness of the systems we operate within.
Exactly. Maybe it's about finding ways to align, your company's sustainability goals with its investment strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Or perhaps it's about advocating for educational programs that, equip people with the skills needed for the jobs of the future.
Right.
The possibilities are endless.
They are. The key is to start thinking in a more integrated way to see those connections and to act accordingly.
hmm Now, as we conclude this deep dive, it's important to acknowledge that there are always multiple perspectives, on
Yes,
complex
yes.
issues like these. What might seem like a straightforward solution to one group
Right.
could be viewed as problematic by another.
Absolutely.
And it's crucial to be aware of those differing viewpoints, to understand the concerns and motivations of various stakeholders,
Yeah.
to listen with empathy,
Mm-hmm.
and to seek common ground wherever possible.
Right. Sometimes finding those solutions requires us to challenge our own assumptions
Right.
and to be open to new ways of thinking.
And there might not always be easy answers.
Nope.
Sometimes the best we can do is grapple with the complexities,
Mm.
acknowledge the trade-offs,
Yeah.
and strive for solutions that benefit, the greatest number of people while minimizing harm.
It's about embracing that messiness, that ambiguity, and recognizing that progress often involves compromise and collaboration.
Yeah, but even when those solutions seem elusive, the act of engaging in these conversations, of seeking understanding, is valuable in itself.
It is, because that's how we learn, how we grow, and how we move forward together.
So as we wrap up this exploration of India's economic landscape, we encourage you to continue the conversation. Share your own perspectives, challenge assumptions, and stay curious about the world around you.
That's right.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from targeted sector interventions to the role of MSMEs, from wage growth concerns to the, complexities of India's relationship with China. We explored Sanjiv Puri's vision for a more integrated approach to policymaking, and we considered the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead for the Indian economy.
We hope you found this deep dive informative, insightful, and thought-provoking.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.